Hey everybody, this is Snow White giving you a guide today on Classic RC Loot Council, the add-on, and Deja Vu Loot Council. What we want to start with is the actual add-on. So if you go to your mods in Twitch, you'll see the name RC Loot Council Classic. This is what you're going to want to download to be able to vote on loot in raids. You want to make sure it says RC Loot Council Classic. Your Loot Council members currently are Offense, Maximus, and Granita. You can see the Loot Prio listing in Discord under Loot Priority List. If you do not have Word, you don't need to worry. You can still pull up the documents by downloading them to your computer, opening Google Documents, and uploading them. So we are in Raid, Loot Priority List. If there's been chat about loot, that's perfectly fine. You want to scroll up and find ZG Loot List. This is always uploaded by Offense. You can see that he had a different version before, and then we talked about things when things were updated. So you want to check back on this page frequently. This is the prio sheet for Ani, MC, and BWL. If you open them, you can then go to Google Documents if you do not have Word. What I'm doing right now is signing in. That way I can pull them up and show you. Alright, so I've got Google Documents pulled up. This computer does not have Word, so I cannot just click on them and open them. So if I go to my file picker, I go to Upload, and I can select a file from the device, which is the computer. So if I upload the prio sheet, it will then come up and you can see it. This is your workaround if you do not have Word. This is going to allow you to continue to see and be up to date with the loot prio list. The priorities that you see here are a basic guideline to help the Loot Council members determine who an item does the most for. Your first priority is generally who the item is best in slot for, but there's going to be other factors that are taken into consideration when creating the first, second, and note section, such as hit capping and different races. The second priority is an individual that can use that item. It may not be their best in slot, or they might have some other options that are similar, but that does not mean first priority is going to get it first, because your mages, your healers, your tanks may already have some other gear. The Loot Council does not use the first priority as an end-all be-all. By having your class leads and officers be a part of the Loot Council, you don't have to worry about a point system or trying to save rolls to get an item that you want. Frequently, what people will see with point systems is that you're trying to save for one specific item that might not drop. It's got a low drop rate, and then you don't end up with any gear, which is why it was determined Loot Council was the best and the most effective way to help gear our raid smoothly and fairly. If you want to take a look at an item, you can see that Molten Core has Onslaught Girdle for Warriors. Fury Prots is first priority. Second is Paladin DPS. Well, we've been running in Molten Core for a while. We've been running Blackwing Lair. So some people may have other items, maybe from Battlegrounds, maybe something on here that they don't want to replace from a set. Doesn't mean that a warrior is going to get it first. Even if a person got an item the day before, let's say it was a low drop trance. It doesn't mean that you're not eligible to receive another item. There's different concerns that are given and looked at when giving out loot, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Loot Council is meant to distribute the loot fairly instead of one person being able to purchase all the items or even somebody trying to grief somebody. The Loot Council looks at a lot of different factors on how to give loot and help award things as evenly as possible. Some items that are looked at, but not the entire list: attendance, performance, attitudes, and your current equipped gear. Attendance doesn't just mean showing up. It means that you're rating when you're supposed to be, you're paying attention, you're distraction free, and giving it your all. And that means bringing consumes as well. Performance doesn't just mean, hey, I'm a top DPS or a top healer, because different boss fights have different mechanics, meaning you may be stuck just sheeping something or stuck dispelling. Everything is equally important because it's all of us working together. If you have concerns about loot, please speak with a Loot Council member, Offense, Maximus, or Grenita to make sure your concerns are addressed. Let's talk about what the add-on looks like in game. So once you've downloaded RC Loot Council Classic, you can go to your interface options, add-ons, RC Loot Council. You want to make sure that your response options are auto, pass, or unchecked. You want to make sure that you see all the gear to make sure A, it's working all the time, and that you're not being passed on something because of your responses. If you want to be able to view previous loot history, you scroll down and you'll enable loot history. If I wanted to open the loot history, I could choose by date, I could choose by person. This is only going to show you this server, so it won't show anything from our old server. And it also will not show you if you did not have that checked. So if I want to see Bane, who's no longer with us, I can see that he main spec needed, off spec greeted, and we'll talk about what that means here in a second. So let's run a test so I can show you what these options are and we can talk about them. So an officer that is voting or a class lead that's on the council will see this. It will show you everybody's names, what their rank is, and what their response is. It then shows you what they're wearing, as well as if it's a difference and when they were last given gear. Once you select an item, you're going to get need, greed, minor upgrade, and pass. Need, this is your best in slot item. Greed is an off-spec roll. So if I'm a healer and I want to roll on something for Shadow, or for PvP. Minor upgrade is just that. It's an upgrade to what you're currently wearing. It doesn't mean that it's your best in slot, but it is something that you could use now. Pass is just that, pass. So you'll see the response right here, main spec need. And then the officers and the Loot Council members will vote. That's how it's given out. When you receive an off-spec PvP or minor upgrade item, it doesn't take the spot of you getting an actual best in slot item. These items aren't and shouldn't be weighted the same way as a need roll. Loot Council members will be able to see all of your responses. So if only one person is greeted, it could look like they are getting a lot of gear. But in reality, they're not, because not everybody else is rolling on it. Again, if you roll for something for off-spec, PvP, or minor upgrade, it doesn't take your slot of getting a best-in-slot item. There are many different reasons people want gear, maybe to more effectively help boost somebody in a dungeon, or to run battlegrounds. There are different items for different things. As always, if you have questions on Loot Council, please make sure that you take those to Offense, Maximus, or Granita. And on the off chance something wasn't handled to your pleasure or your liking, please speak with our GM, Nightmare.